What's up, everybody, and welcome back to episode 5, Cinco of the Cooldown podcast. Today, we got a really interesting, futuristic topic. This was brought up by Connor, and I'm excited to get into this. So we're going to talk about inventions or things in the future that we wish we could have now. Or maybe that we could speed up the process to get them. Because I think at least some of mine, I don't really want. I just think it'd be really cool to have. Which is a weird thing to think. I'm just going to start by saying one of my general ones, then you guys can go about your specific ones. But, obviously, I think we can all agree we'd want, great advances in medicine or, great non-invasive procedures or detection. So I think we're just going to blanket statement that one, that yes, that's obviously the number one thing we would want. But one of you can take it away with your little cool fancy one.
Connor, you want to go?
Ooh.
Wow. Rock, paper, scissors for it. Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper.
Wait, do we go rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no says.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Do we have a delay?
Here, ready? Ready? Here, no. Ready, just have it down low. I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then you just raise it up. All right? Now have it off camera. Off camera. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh.
All right. You got to raise it fast, Ryan.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. Hey! All right,
Ryan's
so
first.
Ryan's first.
Well,
Even though he won.
Okay, I guess I guess interesting segue from Jeremy's. Just some sort of maybe not anti-aging solution, but just aging kind of slow down solution or something similar to that. I read Luke Vasati's college application essay, and it was all about how he wanted to be the guy to figure it out, and he had a lot of cool research in there. And I feel like ever since then, that's been something that I've thought about a lot, where end of life right now is pretty miserable for a lot of people. So even if I were to live to be the same age while feeling young, I think that would be a big advancement. But my whole thing that I've always gone with is my plan is just live long enough where they find a way for me to live longer.
Right.
Yeah. So if you live another day, you'll get closer to that.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
So I have a question. Are you touching on the topic of just extending usable life, or are you trying to say just improving the quality of life at the end of your life? Okay.
Either one.
But you're not necessarily talking about just extending life in general.
So if I grew to be 90 as we are now, I'd just be almost non-functional, as most 90-year-olds are. Yeah. If you extended my life 100 years past that and I was still in that state, I don't think I'm about that.
Yeah.
But if it were possible to do that in a way that I'm still functional, and even there's some pretty good looking 75-year-olds. They're out there.
You heard it here first.
Jackie Chan?
Jackie Chan's 75.
He's up there. He's in his 70s.
Yeah.
I know.
But we've been to the Penn Relays. We've seen the 75 plus 4x1.
My college coach, he's gotten second in the Masters division for the last 15 years.
There's some guys out there
in the 100,
living their best life at 70, which is wild. Even if I could extend 25 years in that state, then that's an advancement. But if obviously optimal age to be frozen at is 25 to 32 probably.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's more of a reach. I think getting 75 kind of our prime. Could definitely.
Yeah, so male prime is usually in that range.
Yeah. So have you heard of anything that has to do with telomeres?
Vaguely. Those are the ends of DNA strands or something?
Yeah, the end of chromosomes, the end of the compound structure at the end of a chromosome. A lot of the research that goes into that currently is measuring the lengths of the telomeres.
Yep.
So trying to determine like how long they are. The shorter they are, the closer you are to end of life. So it's kind of used. It's used as like a measure to find your I forget the term, but it's your like your biological age rather than your
Gotcha.
Okay.
your actual like yearly age.
Your Earth age.
So
Yeah, because
it's
the quality of someone's like ability, I guess, varies so widely from person to person. Because
mhm,
like I know 70-year-olds that are really having a hard time like moving around, and then again like we've seen 70, 80-year-olds running around
Yeah.
yeah,
still like just having a great time. Yeah.
yeah. And this I mean is a like it's a more accurate representation of how old somebody actually is or their actual maturity level. Like
Yep.
so it I mean the research that is in that field is obviously um more about trying to figure out what things can we look at to determine somebody's age, and then how can we modify those things so that they reduce
The impact.
to reduce the speed at which the biological age ages. Like
Advances. Okay.
Yeah.
that's what the whole kind of concept. Um,
Yeah, so biological age and like physical time are different scales,
Yeah.
mhm,
and one can be extended so that
Yeah. So I.
yeah,
that's more
Yeah.
what I'm talking.
You'd rather extend the physical age than the Earth time.
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
But
is
it's but
interesting.
it's pretty cool research, and you know that whole field, like end of life or extending life, research, in like it's intense stuff, man. I mean,
Yeah, it's
uh,
literally life or death.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
think about it, What's kind of interesting about it is if you add 3 years onto somebody's life, 3 years is a lot of time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you
Especially when it comes to impacting like younger generations.
mhm,
Like if your parent lives to be 3 years older, that's going to make a massive impact on you and your children.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like my grandma, she's gotten to see her great grandkids. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
if she passed a year and a half ago, she would never have met. You know, like it's
mhm,
wild that could just 3 years.
Like I remember my great grandparents.
I
yeah.
do not.
I only remember one. I only remember one of my great grandparents, and
I remember
I
two.
only knew three of my grandparents. So it's
That's kind of wild.
yeah, yeah.
Dang.
But but I think that even having that metric by saying, all right, we can increase the life by 3 years, and then maybe 4 or 5 years from now, they will be like, oh, we can increase your lifespan by 4 years, 5 years. It's like every time the research grows, the length at which they can extend your life gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And then at what point does it reach a max? What is the max? You know,
Yeah,
or what point
if
does it
there is
reach
one.
exactly? Or what point does it reach immortality? You
And
know,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking is what's the point, not that it becomes an ethical issue, I would say, because I think, you want to be able to provide people with
Yeah.
the best.
Overpopulation's already a
Yeah,
problem.
like I view it as like that's more of like a medical thing, and I'm okay with providing people with the medical care they need regardless. But yeah, the overpopulation, when does that become an issue of we can't extend your life anymore versus, like if the research you can add 8 years. Well, if you add 8 years, let's say the average person only extends 3 to 4 years. You can max out at 8, but the average is 3 to 4. That's a lot of
that's
years of
another
people.
thing is a lot of these technologies that we're going to talk about are going to be inaccessible for
The masses.
lower class people.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So the general population may not live longer, but the like upper class that already probably have longer life expectancy are going to live longer. They're going to become richer.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other
And then it
issue.
just
that's a
becomes,
whole other
and
issue,
then
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Super
the cyclical.
ethical,
That's
yeah.
why I said
Yeah.
like the masses. I'm okay with doing it for the masses, but I know that's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah,
Also,
if it's an
what-
accessible solution.
Yeah.
then
What
it's
happens?
reasonable.
What happens when if you're paying for that? What stops age from being a currency or lifespan becoming a currency? You
Like
know,
that
use
movie with Justin
exact
Timberlake.
with
Oh,
with the
yeah,
watch,
yeah,
with
yeah.
the watch. But I mean, if you have the ability to make somebody live for forever. You could say that, oh, I bought this package, the subscription for like to increase my lifespan by 10 to 15 years, and
I'd
then
pay
you could
for it, for
exactly,
sure.
and then you could sell that subscription, and then you're technically selling life. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, I'm selling the subscription to you. It'll benefit you. You could probably live longer, which is just
Yeah.
I think one of the crazier parts of what the future could become when
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of technology exists.
Yeah, all these
Yeah.
technologies sort of run away from you where it impacts so many different things or like so many different aspects of life.
Yeah,
that
it's like a cool topic at first, but then once you really think about the ramifications
spirals
of
out
it
of
all,
control.
yeah, you're like, oh, so now it's just gonna keep, it can keep classes more separated. You can literally sell life, like you said, like the ramifications just really do spiral.
It's
Yeah.
unforeseen consequences. I
Mhm.
mean, it's always beautiful before you see the ugly.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, if it was ugly first, no one would be like, yes,
Yeah.
Industrial
Yeah.
I
revolution.
want it.
Yeah.
Earth
Yeah.
is hot now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, a really cool application.
Yeah.
I was gonna take a totally different route from medicine. I mean,
Yeah, I
think
have a bunch of other ones too.
yeah, I think I might be a little bit biased in this step just because it's what I'm directly working on. But fully immersive augmented reality would be incredible. I think that would be
Like
so awesome
simulated
to have.
reality.
Yeah, well, kind of more like where you're wearing a headset, or you're wearing like not a headset, more like glasses or contacts that allow you to interact with a virtual world while you're in the real world,
Yeah.
but in such a way where it is completely immersive. You could see like virtual ads that would just be flying around, or you'd be seeing like markers on the ground that are all virtual. You'd be able
The
to
ads
see
is
like,
the part that I don't like about it.
well,
But again, that's a consequence that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
People are gonna buy
yeah,
into that.
yeah. But I think it'll be a thing where there is less in the real world and more in the virtual world that's overlaid on top of our real world. And
I think there's already more in like the internet world than there is in the real world.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I meant more like in your direct overlay of the real world.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
what I kind
like
of
you don't have to
that's-
seek it.
yeah.
You don't have to go on your phone or the computer. There's a new show coming out on Amazon. I think it's Amazon Prime called Upload, and I think the guy's dead though in the show, and he's in like this like a heaven
simulated
virtual
afterlife.
Yeah,
Yep.
but like that's what it reminded me of. Like, he's walking down the road, and then like ads pop up. There's like the markers on the road for a certain. He's like wants to travel to a certain spot, and it literally has the path on him for him.
Exactly, yeah.
The best Black Mirror episode is about simulated reality.
Is that the video, the haunted house one, the video game one?
No, that one I didn't like that
Oh,
much.
that terrified me.
I just didn't like the ending of that one, but I did like the concept.
Oh wait,
of that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I watched that at your house. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
San Junipero is the name of the episode that I'm thinking about.
I've only watched like 3, so I don't know.
You should watch that one. It's honestly
Okay.
Yeah,
it's my favorite one.
it's my favorite one as well.
Yeah. And everyone that I've talked to, it's their favorite one too. So
I just see Black Mirror just creeps me out, so I just don't watch it.
this
So-
one's not sad,
Okay.
or it's not like scary.
Yeah.
So you're saying like a fully like basically like a virtual world, like a fully virtual world.
So yeah, I was thinking more of like a Sword Art Online
Yeah.
type thing.
That's what when
Yeah.
you started talking, that's why I initially thought you were going.
Mm.
But
But I like
your-
yours too. Yeah.
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 I think they
Yeah,
both have great benefit.
Yeah, I think they definitely do. I think that in reality we are probably going to head more in the direction of augmented reality versus virtual reality, just because of its use cases for all types of things like
Yeah.
Because it's
companies
still
and stuff
reality.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're still there.
that. Yeah,
You're
yeah,
still your own
and there's
person.
you're missing it's lacking the challenge of immersing yourself in a new environment, because you're already in an environment acting with it, and now you just have to immerse the tools that are now there. You have to immerse
Yeah.
the virtual tools, which is a little bit easier than fully immersing like yourself into a brand new environment and tricking the mind into thinking that's a real environment. Which is also pretty good research that has this weird crossover between like engineering and psychology, of like how do you
Yeah.
immerse somebody in a new environment and get them thinking that they're in a real environment when they're in a fake environment. Like that plays into all of your different senses. And trying to, it's almost like you can use like hypnotic research, like how people like perform like hypnosis and stuff like that. So
Yeah. You have to
it's
convince
a
them
cool
they're
crossover.
safe. but you also have to convince them that it's real, so there is danger and threat. You know, because it's easy to convince someone that it's safe or it's dangerous, but it's hard to convince someone that it is both, that they would be able to fully immerse themselves, that they would actually act in the world and not just
it's
shelter.
like the uncanny valley for robotics, where you can have a humanoid robot, but your brain can tell that there's something off about this like very human looking thing. And I think some studies have said that comes from like way back in human evolution. You see something that looks like a human, like a dead human, and your brain knows, oh, that is a human, but I shouldn't go near it because I can get sick. It could have dangerous effects for me. So your brain is thinking, oh, this is dangerous. I shouldn't go near it. But in reality, it's just a new thing, like a robot or in like a virtual setting that you're in. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, would you say that you'd be more inclined to use an augmented, like a fully immersive augmented system, or more inclined to use a like a fully immersive virtual world?
I think augmented has more applications just in human life where you're interacting with other people. Obviously, right now we're in a situation where like full virtual reality makes more sense, but in the case that we ever get to go outside again and interact with people, then augmented reality has way more applications.
I think for me, the virtual reality, I think, I agree with you that augmented has more applications, but I think the virtual reality has more, not accessibility, but I'd be able to do different things. Like, if it's sort of,
It has more possibilities.
I could travel to a different place easier than augmented realities. I physically would have to go somewhere else, or physically have to do something else. Virtual reality, I'd be able to have that freedom from the comfort of my own home. So I think they're both really good. I think I would like virtual. Kind of like has that escape factor to it, and I'm kind of cool with that. But I think augmented, like if we go back to like, you know, we can go outside again, augmented reality would be awesome.
It's hard to say.
I don't think either of them are better.
Yeah, okay.
One has more practical uses, and I think one appeals to the different part of you. I don't know what that part is, but
maybe like an entertainment side.
Entertainment. I think the comfort side of like, I want to do this. That's, you know, we can just go and do it.
Or the exploration side, even.
Yes.
And actually, I was talking with, I forgot who this was about. Well, I was talking to somebody, and we were trying to come up with how you can get around a manipulation of like people's senses to believe that they're in this immersive environment. And we got into a discussion of lucid dreaming. So you know what lucid dreaming is, right? Both of you guys know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So
wild.
That's
if you could almost like stimulate the brain to force it into a lucid dream and then control the environment of the lucid dream, so that you are now immersed in that environment and just living out a certain scenario in your dream as like the virtual world, that would be an interesting way of attacking this problem. Is it possible? I can't speak for it. I can't say it is.
I think this relates back to another conversation we were having where Ryan and I were talking about maybe a week or two ago. If you took a blank brain, say equivalent to Jeremy's when he was born, and applied to it every electrical signal that Jeremy's brain has ever experienced, is that brain now
mine?
Jeremy.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that, and I was like,
Yeah, that, and also if you can do that, right, and you took a blank brain and did that, and you could run it through, let's call it like the Jeremy module or the Jeremy simulation. You run him through that. He's learned all the lessons Jeremy has throughout his entire life. Then after that, you run them through like another simulation. They run them through maybe through a Connor simulation.
Having done none of those actual things.
Exactly.
But the brain knows that it has done that.
If it's possible, it would be crazy. I mean, that would be you could and somebody,
that's
I think
literally
it was
the Matrix.
I think it was you that said that it might the only thing that would be problematic is maybe the brain's capability of handling those electrical responses. Like,
That's fair.
but if maybe a more matured brain, maybe someone that is of like maybe pubescent years or like full maturity years, you use this as like almost like a after you've gone through your maturity, you get to go through other experiences to just see what other people went through. And at the end, you kind of can accumulate what
Like
your views
the
are.
Giver.
I want to know what psychological damage that would do, though. To then having to experience two different people's lives.
Yeah.
Based
Yeah.
on the book The Giver, it has a lot of psychological damage.
I've never seen that, or isn't that a movie too?
So it's the whole premise of it is there's a society where they took away all pain, all emotion. Everyone's just living their life and continuing down the line and propagating their own, like, we have children, their children have children,
Yeah.
everyone lives the same life forever. And there's one person in this society called the Giver, and he has a like protege under him that the Giver has all of the past knowledge of all of humanity, all of the experiences, like, oh, there used to be elephants, and this is how that made you feel. And he passes down that knowledge to his protege and so on. And it's like a wild experience for this one kid that has to experience all of the emotions for everyone else.
Wow.
So, like, imagine feeling all of the happiness and pain of everyone around you.
Of a community, yeah.
All at once, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just a book, right? It's not a movie.
Yeah, that's just. They did make a movie.
I'm pretty sure The Giver
but it
was
wasn't
a movie
very
too.
good.
Yeah.
I see. I might want to read that book. That sounds really interesting.
I'll watch the movie.
Yeah, it's like a middle school book, but I think the premise still holds.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
wow.
that's a crazy concept. Yeah, but the first thing I thought of was the psychological damage has to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To experience
I mean,
two different lives.
Going off of like what you kind of said, like at that last part, Connor, like it almost makes you like wonder how can communication evolve? You know what I mean? Like you said that they would convey like how an elephant feels to somebody, like how it used to feel for somebody. That's communicating a thought. That's communicating a feeling.
Yeah.
In the most extreme way. You're giving them almost like 100% of what that feeling was. Right now, through a conversation, there's so much miscommunication. Like if I'm talking to either one of you guys, the likelihood of you guys getting 100% of my emotions, my feelings, and exactly what I'm thinking,
It's impossible.
is near impossible. Yeah, I would even say it is impossible. But maybe there's another form of communication, nonverbal, maybe something else. Maybe
if you plugged your brain into my brain and sent over your brain signals saying this is how I feel,
you'd be way more likely to get it. Just because, again, I do think there's probably some differences depending on what would actually excite you or make you frustrated. Because, one thing could excite him but frustrate you.
Yeah.
So, but I think you get 99%
based on
of it.
our past experiences.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting idea of questioning our current form of communication and is it the most optimal? And I would say no, but is there a way to improve it that is easy and accessible? Probably not.
There's a super cool new Hulu show that I started watching last night called Devs, Devs, and
Fancy on Hulu.
Yeah, you get it with Spotify.
Yeah, that's true.
But within the first scene, they're doing this experiment where they have like a little nematode worm, and they know all of the signals that have ever been applied to this nematode's brain, so that they have all of like the it's sort of a nature versus nurture type thing, where they know everything that's happened to this, and they use that knowledge to predict what it's going to do 10 seconds in the future. So they know how it's going to move 10 seconds in the future based on its past experience.
So that really
directly applies to this.
Yeah. That, and also it really lies super heavy on nature right? Or I guess it's more. It's probably a combination of both, but I'd say it leans pretty heavy on nature
So
because
nature is the initial state. So that's Jeremy's brain when he was born. That's nature.
so yeah,
But
actually,
nurture is
Nurture is the
all of the
development.
experiences
Yeah.
that
right.
Jeremy's
So,
experienced.
so nature would be that if you had all of the states at the initial position, then
Yep.
you could predict infinite time beyond that if it was 100% nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if it was 100% nurture, then you could never do that. You'd have to. It would be very small increments that you'd be able to predict. But if it's a combination of both, you can kind of get a little bit better of a display.
But if you had somehow very, very low variance in every prediction, you can predict further and further out. So
True.
if you predict 10 seconds out, you get this perfectly right. You
Mhm.
can now predict 10 seconds past that and 10 seconds past that.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you know all of the nurture along the way, then you can predict infinitely.
Was
Yeah.
in
Wow.
this show? It's the worm you're talking about, right?
The
Was-
nematode. Yep.
Nematode. Yeah.
Was that a man created thing?
No, it's
Or
a
did-
it's
No,
a it's
so-
an animal in the sea.
No, I know, but I'm saying, did they did they just like pick it, or did they train? Like, how did they?
I think it was
understand
just like the simplest organism that they could find.
Okay, I didn't know if they had it from birth,
No, I don't think
and
they-
then they like watched
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
gotcha.
that was the case. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's definitely worth a watch. I only got 2 episodes in, and I'm not gonna reveal the rest.
Yeah,
but
no, that's fine.
Mm.
That is
Yeah.
definitely an interesting.
it's super
show.
interesting.
Have you guys heard of the field BCI? Like a BCI?
Nope.
So okay, BCI is brain computer
Interface.
interface. Yeah.
I have heard of
Uh,
that actually.
Yeah. So so it's the idea of getting the brain and the computer to work together in some way or combine them in some way. It's the I guess the merging field, the field in the middle of those
Human
two.
augmentation.
Yeah. And one of the issues when you talk about variance, one of the issues in that field is actually the variance of the data collected is just too high. That's really the bottleneck of that field of why we have a harder time immersing what's it called? The two fields together, because when you're collecting like brain signals or brain waves, you're going to get a reading that is of the scale of like picometers, which is like times
Yep.
10 to the negative 15. Yep.
So just our
Um,
measurement tools aren't good enough.
Yes, but well, no, that's you. The thing is, they can yes, the measuring tools are not good enough, but it can measure that value. But the variance in how wrong or how inaccurate that is on the measure of like a centimeter, which is like times 10 to the negative 2. So it's
Yeah.
like yes,
So you're like way within the noise.
exactly. So it's hard to even say you're anywhere near the right value. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So they do this thing where they sample it a bunch of times. Like if you perform, it's like if you think of like flipping a coin an infinite amount of times in a complete random situation,
Mhm.
you're going to eventually converge to 50-50. Like that's
Yeah.
the idea.
Yep.
The same goes for the measuring of a certain state. You measure a certain state a
this
certain amount of times, you reduce
the
the
idea
variance.
of like optimal estimation and like
Yes.
Kalman filtering essentially.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been looking a lot into that for work.
Yeah. So it's cool. I mean, I think that is like, it's weird when you look at a field and you say you have this predisposition of like what could be the issue, like this original like intuition that what could be the problem, and then you go into it and you realize that problem that you thought was there is already solved, and the problem that is there is something that is non-intuitive that you'd be like, wow, that seems like something that would be solved really easily, but then you dive in deep and you're like, no,
Yeah.
no,
I
not,
have no idea what's going on here.
yeah.
Yeah, when you brought up BCI, I thought of Sad Machine from Porter Robinson. That was like the first thing I thought about, because I was like, isn't that, or isn't like the theory that the people talk about?
Shelter is the virtual reality video.
Yeah. No, and then Sad Machine, isn't like people talk about like Sad Machine is like the dad or the girl.
No, that was Shelter.
No.
Sad Machine is I agree. I think I heard the same thing from
Yeah,
Jeremy. I think
Shelter
it's Sad
Shelter
Machine.
is when the dad makes it, they send him up to space. Then Sad Machine is apparently the post Shelter song.
Yep.
If you like, and isn't that
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She depends on you.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's what
Yeah,
it
I
connected to me.
like that.
I've listened to that album a lot in
Yeah.
quarantine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
made
I
me think of
remember
it. I was
seeing that
like,
theory.
oh wait, that's like nuts. Like being able to.
Yeah.
Like he sent the robot out first
Mm-hmm.
to
So
take care of
so
her when she arrives wherever she's going.
Yeah.
dang, this is super relevant actually. When you bringing this up is super relevant because
Science point.
Boom.
this person's analysis said that it explores how the robot can take on human qualities like sadness and love, and also how eventually the robot will have to be on her own again when the person she shares a relationship with leaves or dies. Which I mean, it's on topic. It's not necessarily the same thing we
Yeah.
talked about, but it's very relevant. I mean, to
Yeah.
kind of the ideas we're playing into. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
was like, because I know she's still human, but
mhm.
he is no longer human.
Yeah, it's very similar to Bicentennial Man. You get like Robin Williams. You
Oh
guys ever
haven't
see
seen
that
yes,
it.
movie?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and that's all. And for its time, I mean, like that actually kind of came up with some pretty interesting like talking points.
Yeah.
Like what does it mean to really live forever if everyone dies around
Yeah,
you? So
It's
but
wild how many like old kind of sci-fi books, all of those things are actually starting to happen.
yeah,
and it's like, is it
yeah,
good? You know, like
It's,
when it
yeah,
was
yeah, because
when
everything
it's
goes badly in
yeah,
those
like when
books.
it's so far away, it seems like a great thing.
Yeah.
But when it gets closer, because you realize all the other things that happened in that time, from when the initial thought into when it's actually happening, all the things that went wrong here, and you're like, oh wait, this might not be ideal if it keeps
yeah.
going.
And I mean, you could see this in the fact that technology moves faster than law,
Oh yeah,
and so and
Absolutely, yeah.
and so because it does, it's very easily abusable.
and also
So
technology is money, and money impacts law. So
exactly,
it moves
exactly.
faster and it has a lot
Yeah.
of power. So
Exactly. So it's like it's this like weird field that or thing in our lives which is like so interesting, so cool, but yet so dangerous
yes,
and it could potentially cause many problems like
Yeah.
leading into the future.
Autonomous vehicles are largely unregulated right now.
Hmm.
I
Like
think
there's no laws really governing what people do. California's just like, yeah, report how much you drove if you crashed into anyone.
Think about AI. I mean, in general, like for
Yeah.
example, the video I showed you guys the other day
yeah,
with the Jay-Z thing,
yeah,
right? So where Jay-Z was rapping over like the Navy SEAL copy pasta.
yeah.
Yep.
Literally he never said anything.
Any
He
of
never
those
said those
words.
words.
Yeah.
And so you take his voice, you make him say something he never
Like,
said.
is that identity theft? Like,
I, I mean, yeah, where does that lie? Is that
Like
is
yes,
yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. Like in the court of law, like would that hold up? Would that hold up as not, it could be sabotage, or like
like fraud.
yeah, like
fraud?
what is that gonna actually hold up as though?
And also, how can you tell if it's fake or real at a
Yeah,
certain point? How do
yeah,
Like
you
you can't use a video in court anymore. You can't use a recording in court anymore. Everything can be faked.
yeah. I think you
Mhm.
can use. I think yeah,
Well, you can still use
Well, you
those things. It's
can,
more
but
it's more
should
that
you
like
be able
it's
to?
like in the
be
future.
it can be disputed. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not clear
that's
cut
fair.
anymore. Yeah,
And now, I mean, it really boils down. It asks the big question, like, how can you determine what's fake and what's real? And should it be should it be a law that you have to make sure that if you're creating something of a certain caliber, you have to add a marking in some way to show that it is fake. And if you
Yeah.
don't, then there could be consequences. Who knows? I
I
mean,
think in the future that will become a thing, and I really do, because I think they want people, the same reason why they say like don't try these stunts at home. These are like, I think they're going to say, hey, this is not real. Like whether it is a relationship that someone has, because it might show positive or negative types of relationship. It could be like a physical harm someone does. I think they're going to make sure that you have to say it is fake.
Add a
Just
disclaimer.
yeah, just like the disclaimer for safety, or like people have to do like #ad on social media now. I think they're going to end up doing like letting the people know as much as they can. I think you have
Yeah.
to. I think it would be unjust not to.
Maybe there's a way that you can. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, Ryan. But there's the whole idea of like signed and unsigned files. So
mhm.
maybe there's a way that if something's real, say you have a GoPro, you're taking a video, it gets signed with some like private key, and then that type of key is very difficult to copy, so that when you create a new video and send the file, then it isn't signed in the same way.
Yeah. Like it won't be able to replicate the sign.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, so
could
instead
see.
of a physical watermark, a physical like watermark would still be
Yeah.
probably the best idea, just so it's clear to people that, hey, this isn't real. But a more low level solution I feel like would be good too. And there he goes.
So we're just gonna move on
right.
to the next topic.
Yeah.
I knew you two would take really in-depth things because you're like more in these fields. So I have
Scientific people.
Yeah, so I have 3 things that are like my favorite. One's from a TV show, and the other 2 are just kind of cool. So, the first, we really need to talk about this one. It's more of like it's from Futurama, the What If machine. So it's kind of like predicting the future.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like it's a cool, because everyone has those thoughts like in the shower. You know, what if this? They say this, I'll say this, and you always look like an amazing person. Yeah. So like that would just be something cool. But then that's a huge. Because then are you living life, or are you just like following a story of like what ifs, like a choose your own adventure?
We already kind of covered
Yeah,
that.
I know. See, I don't really want to go in depth. You can say your point.
I want to say something here because I actually was like, I really would like something like that because it's more of I'd use it for a what if for like kind of the past type things where like I'd be like, what if Michael Jordan played at the same time as LeBron?
Oh,
What if,
no, this is only for future.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But
Yeah.
in general, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a what
That
if
would be
where you could see the answers that everyone wants to know in certain
Yeah.
situations, like who would win in a race, Bob Hayes or Usain Bolt? Like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, you can get.
Goku or Naruto.
Yeah. Like
Oh,
what if
yeah.
situations like that. Yeah.
That's fair.
But
Yeah, because then you'd actually be able. But the thing is, though, wouldn't that ruin? Isn't debate a great thing though?
no,
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Like I
It
feel
would-
like
it
that
would ruin
that
debate.
mitigates that, you know, and it mitigates like personal belief. You know, you could believe LeBron's the best. You can believe MJ's best. You could believe Kobe. You could believe, you know, Will Chamberlain. Yeah, you can believe those, and there's facts to back them all up. But then that instantly is like, nah, can't do it. So that would, yeah. So that's just an interesting thing. My other 2, I'll do the dream movie maker. Something that remembers, whether it's like implants or an external thing, and it remembers your dreams and makes them into movies. Because I never remember my dreams.
Yes.
And you dream way more. Don't you dream? Like every person has like between like 3 to 6 dreams a night or something like that. Whether they remember them or not, I'm pretty sure it's something like that.
I think it might be a little more actually.
Yeah, and it's something like
Some people are really good at remembering their dreams, which
I'm
is
not.
wild.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And but wouldn't that be amazing? Like you'd be able to relive a part of your subconscious that you don't know is there. I just think that'd be madness.
Let me hit you with something that actually is going on. Is first of all, I mean, whatever amount of dreams, I think a lot of mine come in phases. Like they just kind of like come in flashes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there was a study that was done. I forget which university. I really need to look that up. But either way, where they were trying to replicate what somebody sees, like image wise, take the signals from their brain and try to replicate that image just using the signals from their brain. So here's like the image. Let's say it's like giraffes and elephants and whatever and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Try to recreate that exact image of what is happening somewhere else. Now the results, ridiculous. Like I was like, that's super incredible. Like it wasn't like directly spot on, but all of the shapes were there.
Yeah,
The coloring was missing a little bit, but it was just like
That's
you
wild.
knew you
You
could watch
understood
that.
what they were doing. Yeah.
You could watch the other one and know what is going on. Like, so that's really interesting. Now, in the same thread that I was reading, this person was developing a software. Doesn't need to get into too much detail. It's like a GAN, but the idea is that it was trying to replicate the same experiment, but use the power of AI, deep learning, to try to use it for dreams, like you're saying.
Yep.
And to recreate the dreams so you could watch them when you wake up.
Yep.
Now, the person that they used in this experiment, he was asleep and he was dreaming about writing letters, and then walking down a hallway, and then playing some sort of game or something like that. That's what like he was saying. He was like, that's what I was dreaming about. That's what I remember. The images, they could not do something where they were recreating the exact images. So what they were trying to do is trying to find. They took from a collection of images and used those collections of images to represent
the
their
gist.
to represent the idea of their dream in a gist. And it was accurate to the topics that were covered in his dream were portrayed in the images shown.
That's
So
wild.
I think that is like first step scenario. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's first.
so like in your dreams you feel like you're seeing these things, but does that use the same like neural pathways as
As
actually
you visually
seeing?
seeing, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Because then they're directly correlated. Like you can use what the information you get from this one on this one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess maybe that's not the case, but
Yeah, I don't know enough about like neural pathways and how different information is communicated in different parts of the brain and stuff like that.
yeah.
But I will say that I mean it probably isn't exactly the same because there are parts of your brain that are obviously off when you're asleep. So I would say that like even if and they're not and none of I don't think any of the brain functionalities are working at 100% while you're sleeping. So even if like it does go through the same thing, not all of the same signals are going through. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say what I thought you meant when you said dream movie creator or
Yeah.
whatever. What I thought you meant was if you take, say, all of the movies and videos that I've ever watched and the amount that I've watched them, how well I like them, put that into an algorithm and output the movie that you would like the
Oh,
most.
your favorite movie. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or like
The best
create a
movie-
movie
Yeah,
from scratch.
yeah.
The best movie for you.
Yeah. Oh, that would also
That would
be
be
interesting.
wild too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And I
kind of
mean
I kind of like that to like the augmented world where they like knows you so well that it can
Yeah.
like target ads, like it's targeting that movie towards what you enjoy.
and it's even like targeting it, creating it,
Yeah.
and then showing it to you. It's like that pipeline. And what's crazy with a lot of the stuff we've even discussed today so far, they're all kind of possible. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
not maybe not the what if machine. I
But
don't think
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if that's
No,
possible.
that one
The
that
script
was just
from
a
every
cool one.
movie
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
If you take the script from every movie I've seen and like train a network on that, it can probably output something that I would like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It might not make
Which is wild.
sense. But
Yeah.
but
I mean,
you
with
would,
the
like
right-
down selected.
yeah, you would enjoy the premise of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the-
it's like
with the
Phil
right-
Leffenbot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I
down-select
view
all
it.
that
Yeah, like
stuff.
some things
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, but it gets the job done. And then you have a
Yep.
human go over it after.
Yeah.
Mhm. So what was your last one?
My other one is I think very practical for everybody. It would be a computer screen or monitor that emulates vitamin D.
Oh,
Because
that's interesting.
I'm thinking now, I don't go outside right now. I spend a lot of time, obviously, on my computer, either teaching or creating content. But I think everyone would enjoy that, whether you work in an office, whether like I think that could just be a very useful and healthy tool for a activity that isn't always healthy. Like sitting down doing
Right.
a laptop or a desktop is not a bad thing, but it can become extremely unhealthy.
They have
So-
lights that do that. Not screens maybe, but they have like office lights that you can get that simulate if your office say has no windows or something, that simulate, oh, this is the type of light you would get outside.
Oh.
And you get the same, like your body reacts in a different way when it's stimulated with certain types of light, so
Yeah.
your body reacts the same
The same. Okay.
to those types of lights.
So I have a question. I don't know enough about like vitamin D like transfer from like light and the sun and stuff like that. Is it just the wavelength of light that has that, or is it like something that is added that could, like for example you said with these lights, right, that they added in the person's house, is it the wavelength of light that carries vitamin D, or is it that vitamin D is something that they have to just add to the light and it doesn't change the wavelength of the light?
It's ultraviolet B, and how it impacts with your skin cells how it hits
Oh.
the
So your skin
cholesterol
cells
in the skin
produce
cell.
more vitamin D when you're getting enough sun.
Yeah. So the
Oh.
So in
sun.
that case, I think it
Oh.
would be a wavelength thing because
Yeah.
what else are you getting from the sun other than like
Yeah.
energy?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
Jeremy just read it supports that as well.
Yeah.
And
So it's how it's just an interaction. That's all it is.
Oh. So your body is creating the vitamin E,
Vitamin D.
D.
vitamin D. Yeah, vitamin D.
But you need the ultraviolet B.
But you need the ultraviolet B. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And actually, it makes you wonder why that isn't a thing. Maybe that is like
Too much UV radiation is a bad thing, though.
That is true. So you'd have to be able to like turn it on and off, or
Yeah.
because like I know for me, I would then get 8 hours to my face
Yeah.
every day. You know, like
you can
that
get
wouldn't
a
be
sunburn
good.
from your computer, maybe.
Yeah, and that could be very
So-
dangerous.
So then, is a sunburn? Now I could be wrong here. This is just me kind of
Sunburns are
spitballing
not
here.
good.
Just
No,
spitball.
Yeah, but is a sunburn a increased level of vitamin D production that then causes I guess what's the word?
And like an oversaturation.
An
or something.
oversaturation type, yeah, an oversaturation or like a deficiency. Not a
I
deficiency, a
don't think
discrepancy.
so. I obviously could be wrong, but I think it's actually like physically damaging your skin cells.
Yeah. Now,
Like you're getting too much UV radiation, and it's just like actually damaging the cells themselves, not
Yeah, so-
overproducing something and then
But could
that
it-
causes damage in turn.
But if the cells are creating the vitamin E or vitamin D,
Big vitamin E guy.
yeah. I just keep thinking of the chapstick. That's why. But
Mm.
but
I never
vitamin,
heard of that chapstick.
yeah,
me neither.
but vitamin D, right? If the ultraviolet rays are trying to get the cells to produce vitamin D, could you say that you're overworking the cells and then they're dying, and that's what's causing?
So
The
what?
burn?
So what sunburn is? This is what I just googled it real quick.
Yeah.
It says it's sunlight damage to the DNA in the upper level of the skin cells. So it probably is too much. It's and that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
overexposure. That's why they always say,
Yeah.
go in and out. Make sure you add
You're
that
just-
extra layer.
Cooking your skin, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Which and then you can be mutating. You're mutating the skin cells, and obviously you don't want a lot of mutations because that
Yeah.
leads to
'Cause-
bigger issues.
And the thing is, it's radiation heat transfer, but you can get the reason why it's like a little bit different than just like the idea of cooking is that like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be hot outside for you to get a
Yeah,
sunburn.
yeah,
It just has to be a certain level of UV radiation in the air.
Yep.
So I
Yes.
got you. I got it.
Yeah. So those
yeah.
are my. I thought they were. The second one I thought was the most like practical for like the average human. That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to go
That's
with.
fair.
Yeah, the UV.
Yeah,
computer
the
screen,
screen
yeah.
one. The screen
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah, I was trying to
yeah.
get something that was, I think, could happen relatively soon. Like, I think if people wanted to do it, that could happen the quickest, easily.
Yeah.
Because there already is, like you were saying, Con, some type of technology for that.
Yep.
Is there motivation for that? And I think that's where I don't think
Yeah.
that people are necessarily putting the energy into that. But they might just not be. What's really a big issue is that sometimes you get people in the field of research or the field of application that are not really creative. They're just going off what's there, building the next thing. They're going off of the next thing, they're building the next thing. Whereas like if you think really creatively, if you let yourself expand, you come up with these very innovative ideas that people are like, "Oh, why didn't anyone think of that before?"
Yeah.
And that's one that could be very
And I
much
think
that way.
I think it would sell.
Yeah.
I think it would sell tenfold, honestly, because
Yeah.
you could get large companies that,
Fill their whole office.
exactly, especially you get a little morale boost. You say, hey, boom, we're going to do this. I care about your healthy well-being, because that's a new thing that a lot of companies are
Yeah.
into. That's a new initiative. Like they're caring
Pretending
about,
that they care about their.
yeah, like maybe it's, if you get X
Yeah.
amount of steps. Like there's a company in Pennsylvania. What's it called? I forgot what it was, but for the last 3 or 4 years, they've won Company of the Year for Pennsylvania. It's in Harrisburg,
Wow.
and I know a lot of Messiah people. After they graduate, they go and work there. This place, once a week, they give you like the random people. They'll individually buy different people different items. They give away Fitbits.
Yeah.
They give away TVs. Oh, you walked X amount of steps this month, you get a TV. They'll give away 100 TVs if everyone hits the goal. It's not like, oh, you won, everyone else lost. They do every week. They do like meetings at like different restaurants. They care about their well-being, and this could be something where it's a much easier investment. Yeah, it might be an initial 30,000 up front to buy everybody these screens, but that again,
In
vitamin
the long
D,
run, it's gonna
yeah, vitamin
make
D,
a difference.
it can just increase the health benefits as they're working, which then could increase morale by only doing a
Yeah.
one-time purchase.
The
Yeah.
company that makes these what's
The
it called?
watches.
This heart rate monitor is Whoop.
Whoop.
And Whoop, it's a Boston-based company, and the whole idea is it measures like your stress, strain, how much you're sleeping, your sleep efficiency, all that type of stuff. And they just started a program where two things. There's like 3 levels of sleep and recovery. So you can either be in the red, which is below maybe 35%. Yellow is between 35 and 70 or something, and then above 70 is green. And their whole thing is if you're in the red, don't come to work, recover, get better, or like work from home if you're in the red.
Oh,
Oh,
like they have
wow.
their own company people, their own members do
Yeah,
that.
that's like their
Ah,
after it started after coronavirus, because they're doing a bunch of coronavirus research on how your respiratory rate is affected. So how many breaths you take per minute while you're sleeping, which normally should be very constant. I think mine's like 15 or 16 breaths a minute while I'm sleeping. But they found that there's a direct correlation between when people started getting sick with coronavirus, because they have an option on their app where you can check if you've been diagnosed with coronavirus, and then they'll take a look at your data, and they're working with some Australian university to say this is the effect on heart rate data and breaths per minute and all that type of stuff when, like, before you're diagnosed, when you're at the peak, and then after.
Wow.
So that's when they
That's
implemented
nuts.
this policy that don't come to work if you're in the red. And then their other thing is they have like sleep efficiency numbers where if you're supposed to get 9 hours of sleep, it tells you how much sleep you need for the following night based on your previous day's activity. And if you get, say, above like 90% every night for a month, they'll give you like $100 or $200 added to your paycheck.
Ah.
Wow.
And that's the thing for every one of their employees.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And health
Yeah.
initiatives are the wave, and it kind of stinks that it took this long. Because like before,
Get here.
everyone used to just be like mule rats, go to work, do this, and they'll replace. Even though jobs will still replace, they don't really. A lot of jobs really don't care. You know, they pump out college graduates. You know, like you
But
can get
your
replaced.
company's going to benefit if
Exactly.
your employees are healthy. So
Exactly.
Well, that's where I mean, this is a really cool initiative. Google does something similar, which like has mandatory workout time in the middle of your workday, where you have to go to
I
the
like that.
gym, like between like whatever you have to schedule it. But I mean, companies are definitely adopting this new culture. But this particular device that you were talking about, like, is so interesting because there's a lot of controversy over right now, like where is the line of security for our medical like records? You know what I mean? Like for all that stuff. Right now, I mean, it's completely secret. Like we're not
Yep.
supposed to. We're
you
not,
have
like,
to give the okay for them to be able to use that data in the study.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And for you though, it's a personal thing, right? I mean, they have it. Fine, they're a company. They have it. You sign this up for them to have access to that data.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you have the watch on your hand. Nobody else is looking at that watch, right? Nobody else is
Yeah.
seeing your data. You know what I mean? Like directly on you, besides the company, obviously. But the concern is that there is technology that is heading in the direction where you're able to see other people around you, what their status are.
Yes.
There's these augmented reality glasses that were invented and were making circulation in China, which allowed you to see the body temperature of people around you. So if I was wearing the glasses, I could see like somebody had a fever or they didn't have a fever. And yes, maybe it's like it's minor, right? Maybe it's like, oh, I'm just get to see the person's temperature. But like that
It's a little
means
invasive, though.
Yeah.
exactly. And you can tell a lot from there. Think about like how you then start distancing yourself from people if their temperature is different. How
Yeah.
that becomes now like a social aspect of, you know, like how you
Yeah.
maneuver your life. I mean, it's not it's a really, really slippery slope when you have access to other people's information in that way, which is why I'm really intrigued about this watch. If it's or this whatever, the sensor that you have on your wrist,
Yeah.
it's just it removes that fear of somebody else having access on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's only you that has access, but yet you have the constant monitoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the external knowing somebody else's medical, regardless of how invasive or not it is, and to what degree, I think that's when it crosses the line.
Yeah.
You know, you should know as much as you can about yourself. That's fine. But also by putting that in like the common person's hand, you are not giving them, medical devices, but you kind of are. And that could spiral out of control very quickly based on people's stigmatizations, people's art pre-biases. Like, then it can become a bigger issue than just, you
Yeah,
have a
that's
fever,
a big
you don't.
psychology study to do right there.
Yeah. And that's
Just
something
using
that
everyone's
I know
confirmation
I don't
bias
want.
against them.
I don't want. I agree. I don't care. You have a temperature. I don't want to know if you do unless you tell me or I see you sweating. Like, I don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys got.
It's
Oh,
I was just gonna say, kind of like, I guess this is like last point, but it's really curious, to look at like where the current technology is going, and like kind of guess how it'll be used and how people are going to adopt this for the future. Because it can go a good way, it can go a bad way, but I think both sides offer up very interesting conversation, very interesting insight.
I think it
Most
will be used
technology,
in
I
both.
feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
most technology I feel like is going to be used in a way that makes people money,
Yes.
which is like, I don't know, a lot of technologies supposedly, the whole idea of technology is like it makes your life easier, but
But does it
there's a
make the
lot of
masses' lives
ramifications.
easier, or does it make select few?
Yeah.
Then that's the.
And I mean, without diving too deep into this, but is there a point where everything becomes automated, where everything kind of stops continuing forward?
If we don't destroy ourselves first, then maybe.
That's fair. That is
Yeah.
that's very fair.
Unfortunate reality.
Yeah. No, it's the truth. Did you? This is a little off topic, but there was a study, but not really off topic. I think it was in UK or Australia that during this pandemic right now, the emissions are still haven't gone below a level that they were supposed to. I think in the UK they're still at like 5.6, whatever degree they measure it by. They were at like 7.3, and now it's only down to 5.6. But they said they have to get it down to 5.2 for the greenhouse effects to actually start reversing. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, and people aren't driving or doing it, and they still couldn't get it down. And they're like, that's how you need to realize how big of an issue that we are destroying. Like, the humans are actively destroying the earth, and like we have a pandemic, and people aren't allowed to leave, yet it's still not good enough.
Yeah, one of my coworkers, we had someone come speak
it.
about climate change at work, because I just work in a big incubator, so they had this event, and he kind of made this point where, the guy that was speaking made this point where there's a tipping point where after a certain point, there's no going back. But my coworker kind of tried to make this argument that, hey, before the Industrial Revolution, no one thought that any of the stuff that we have now would be possible.
Yeah.
But it's the like rapid advance of technology that makes things that were previously thought impossible possible. So his argument was that even if we go past that tipping point, there could be an advancement in the future that could help us kind of reel it back.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's something that you can count on.
Yeah. I think to wrap that up is we just need to now move forward. And when we introduce new technology, think about the impact it has in other areas.
Yeah.
Think about those things. So we don't have another situation with coal versus now renewable. If we would adopt renewable right away because we know that that's the better way. Like, just be more conscious of how all of the things that you're doing affect other areas and properly implement it rather than rushing it out.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and the one thing about your point, I think that's a selfish view, Connor, to say, oh, we'll get it in the future.
You're like, oh, that's a future Connor problem.
That's my grandkids. You know and I think that's a very selfish viewpoint, which a lot of people do have, and I think, but I did find the study. It was from NPR, and they pulled data from a few things.
NPR.
So the UN said it needed to get below 7.6 in the month of March. It was at 4, but now it's already climbing again, even though the pandemic's still going on, because people are now just over it. So yeah, and it's if it comes back up to 7.6, the climate change, it's gonna rise the average temperature of the Earth by another 1.5 degrees Celsius. If it continues by the end of the year, which is nuts.
By the end of the year?
Yeah.
What?
Wow. If it's at 7.6, yeah.
Dang. My one thing with what you said, Ryan, where you have to implement something the right way and think about the impact that it's going to have. The reason that doesn't work right now is because, yep, exactly. Everyone's just thinking about money.
Yeah.
Like even Tesla is selling fully autonomous driving that doesn't exist yet. They're making money now on a technology that hasn't been like actualized. And especially with how Elon Musk is just kind of going off the rails right now. He had
his Twitter was a little interesting.
I did hear, you can say, but I heard a good counterpoint to him doing that was then he can buy his own stock up.
But then that might be securities fraud.
Oh no, it 100% is, but you act like that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah,
like that, or he could have someone. That's a.
He's also his girlfriend's having a baby soon, so maybe he's a little stressed. We'll give him benefit of the doubt. But either way, he makes these very bold public predictions, or just like statements where he's saying, "Oh, this works up to this level." And really it's kind of down here, but they're selling it as if it's up here. And he's such a public figure that people believe him, and then kind of, in the case of autopilot, overtrust their system. So that's a case where they're not implementing it properly. They just kind of need that money to improve that technology, but it's not at the state that they're kind of
claiming.
They're not necessarily claiming that it's at that state, but they give off the general vibe that, oh, this is ready for like mass public adoption, when really it's not, and it's dangerous that people think it's up to that level.
Yeah, they're being sneaky about it. They might not be claiming it, but they're being sneaky by not saying it isn't,
Yeah, it's like strategic omission of information.
It's frustrating having to deal with the needs and wants of the entire population. You know what I mean?
You can't please everyone.
And the thing is, like, that's why this pursuit of money feels like that people then take it's too much effort to care about the larger masses right now. And so I'm going to start thinking more introspectively because that's all I know I have control over. And so then they start doing things that just benefit them, which I can understand and I think is relatable. It's relatable to say that, but is it right? I don't think so. I mean, that's not in my moral compass.
Yeah.
But I think that, that's where I wish that in the future, as technology improves and as autonomy improves, we start thinking about that more consciously. We start thinking about proper implementation rather than rushed implementation. But unfortunately, I can't say that will be the case, but as I guess maybe an optimist inside me, I hope that that's where like humanity goes.
Yeah, there are definitely some, just to kind of close up at least the autonomous driving type aspect of it. There are some companies that instead of kind of making incremental improvements, so like partial autonomy, but you have to be supervising it at all times, which is level 2 or level 3 autonomy on a 5-level scale. Where level 4 is it works completely unsupervised within a certain set of conditions, and level 5 is it works everywhere all the time, completely unsupervised and with very low variance. So right now Tesla is doing incremental improvements where they're kind of approaching or at level 3 and saying, hey, this works, you can use it now, but you have to, they do say that you have to be supervising it at all times, but there's this whole idea of the level 3 problem in autonomous driving, where as soon as someone sees that it works pretty well, they stop paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's been lots of what's it called, autopilot related Tesla crashes where people kind of learn to trust the system even though it's not perfect, and then their attention is somewhere else, and when the system tries to throw back control to them, their mind is somewhere else. They can't react within the proper time, so they crash. So instead, there are other companies like Waymo, which is a Google company. What is it called? Aurora is owned by, or is invested by Amazon right now. A bunch of companies. Aurora, actually. Yeah, it's Pacific Northwest company. But yeah, there's a bunch of companies jumping straight for level 4, which is no driver, unsupervised. It works within these conditions.
Yeah.
So that you no longer have to worry about the human aspect of it, where people are trusting this imperfect system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gives me hope that at least there are companies thinking about proper implementation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the future of technology is bright and interesting, and it's all about how humanity handles that. And I think that that's how we can kind of move forward.
Yeah, and I think that I have one little last point. Like, the people I remember are not the people, because we were talking before, like how money runs a lot of things, whether it's like advanced technology runs the laws, all that stuff. But like, the people I remember aren't always the richest people. You know, like a lot of people want to leave some type of legacy, but
a lot of people that made a massive impact,
like Jonas Salk,
died poor.
Yeah, like the guy who made polio vaccine, Jonas Salk or Stalk or something like that, gave it away for free. Like, he ended up making money, but he wasn't like, nah, hold on. Who?
Yeah, Nikola Tesla.
Oh yeah. So it's like,
he wanted to give us free electricity.
Yeah, like I understand people think like the money is what's gonna make you. No one really is like, wow, Eisenhower, great guy. Like, yeah, he was an innovator in that time period, but he also did a lot of bad things to get there, you know? So there's a lot of great inventors that are human, you know, and you know, they care about the human race as a whole, not just themselves or their people.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's at least me. Like, I don't remember, like, Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't rich, but he had a message, and a powerful message, and like, those are the things. We need
fewer Skrellies, more Teslas.
The thing is this.
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
What matters is the present that you leave behind for the world. And if you think that a more expensive present is going to be a better present, then you're tricking yourself into believing that it has more value than it does.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You can only use the money while you're living, so.
Yeah. I would like generational wealth, though. If someone wants to just give me generational wealth, I will take it. I'm not against it. Like, well, none of us are against it, but
if you had to choose between generational wealth and worldwide health,
because that would pay off generational wealth in a heartbeat. Yeah. That would I would even do just like. Obviously, not saying I don't care about the world.
There's
but
some people that are choosing between that, and they choose the other one.
That is true, and that's a discussion we have had as a group, and that's a discussion we have had as a group, and that's why I always say, if you are rich and don't actively care about the world, then I don't like you. And we've had that discussion for a few years, and that's what I think. If you're not actively making the world a better place, then you are not actively really producing a product that's that great.
Yeah,
like you're selling yourself short essentially as an inventor or an investor. That's how I view you.
And I think that's food for thought. You know.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think about any of the topics we discussed. Let us know in the comments down below. But this was a really good discussion. I like this one.
Yeah.
I think we covered a little basis of everything, like we kind of always do.
Yeah, we hit every one of the topics that I wrote down.
Oh, really?
It like all kind of looped back in. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I think this was a longer episode than normal, so I think we'll just like cut it. Ryan, you got anything to plug?
Yeah. So for anyone watching, make sure to download College Versus. It's a new social media app. The link is in the bio. It's so you could show how great your school is, compete to see who's the best at what. So take a look, download, and then please post. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, it's a super
Pretty fun.
immersive app. Really can dive into it. Schools all across the country. So really get involved with it. It's an awesome little community. But again, you can find me on social media. All that's down below. Call your mom. Tell you love her. She deserves to know. We're out. Peace.
See it.